What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, the 19th episode of the College Loop Podcast. And we are recording right after an Auburn Tigers basketball win, which it's been a hot minute since we've been able to record after one of those. Uh, Auburn wins 94-73 against Georgia Bulldogs, getting the win streak back in Neville Arena. And just a all-around great game. And I'm, of course, joined today by Harrison Tarr, as always, at by Harrison Tarr on Twitter. And special guest today, we got Wil Crews back on here for the second show that he's been on.
Our first returning guest.
Yeah, it must have not been that bad the first go around, guys. So appreciate
No, you were.
having me back.
We're giving you redemption.
Okay, well, I'm totally up for that. I'm up for that.
No Daniel Locke today. He was at the game, and he's also has to do some work with Weagle doing his WWE show. And I know Will's kind of upset about that because he really wanted to show off his Yankees merch, which Daniel, we all know, would have absolutely adored and not said anything about that whatsoever.
Yeah, he would have probably tried to hug you through the Zoom.
But yeah, great all-around game for the Tigers. A game that we've been waiting to see for quite some time now. And it seemed like tonight everything clicked for him.
Well, let me tell you something, Dylan. This game was almost perfect in terms of the solution after two back-to-back losses. No game's perfect, Crews. Don't get me wrong. I'm more critical than anyone. But this was the perfect bounce back in the right areas for the right people, for the right set for Auburn after two losses. I mean, last game you kind of throw away because how do you defend someone who sinks 7 threes? But well, I mean, and it begins with Johni Broome, a first half double-double. Oh my God, that guy's ridiculous. Wendell Green Jr., I've seen the Harlem Globetrotters not make shots that difficult. We got good Allen Flanigan tonight. And I mean, there's just so many points here. Katie Johnson, man, that's where I want to start. And I know that's an obscure one usually, but the past 3 halves of basketball we've seen out of Katie Johnson, I'll go as far as saying they've been good.
Not a stretch, Harrison. I mean, Travis Scott coined the term like sicko mode with that album back in the day. And nice little tribute to Tom Brady with your hat. I see you out here, Harrison.
That was the plug. Thank you for catching that. Thank you.
Yeah. But Katie Johnson is best when he goes into berserko mode. And 13 points tonight. Didn't take like a plethora of shots. Usually that's where he gets into trouble when he starts forcing up bad shots. He was aggressive going to the rim, but he's also patient and facilitating well. So like you said, the last 3 halves of Katie Johnson is the Katie Johnson that this Auburn team really needs going forward, especially, as we look forward to the rest of the schedule, which is Auburn's most difficult part of the season.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier, Crews. And the fact that you played this well against 2 guards that let's face it, got bullied by just a month ago. Mm-hmm. That's an encouraging sight for Auburn fans. And if you look at the box here, I mean, there's really not much that you can ask in terms of Georgia shot the lights out. Actually, they shot very well from 3. I'm going to say something I never thought I would say about this 2022-23 Auburn team. Auburn shot magnificently well from the perimeter tonight, and they took good shots. They won the battle of the guards. Johni Broome just made people look stupid down low. And you did all this with kind of an averagely quiet night from Jalen Williams. Allen Flanigan's getting more and more consistent by the game. He'll trickle off, and then you'll start to be like, maybe we, maybe pump the brakes on him being back. And then he just does this. This could set Auburn up pretty well. Crews, I don't know about you, but I feel not terrible going into Tennessee on Saturday.
Well, yeah, and it definitely helps that they just lost to Florida, right? You guys, I mean, it might not help actually because, teams like a good team is not likely to lose 2 in a row. But in terms of just looking at where Auburn is at right now, they're in a really good spot. I mean, tonight, the decision making was what impressed me the most. Like Georgia went to that zone defense for a majority of the second half. And we've seen plenty of times an Auburn offense this season and years past even get really stagnant against a zone and just pass the ball around the perimeter and end up having to force a shot. But the decision making was evident from all the lobs. First of all, I mean, it was just over over again, like Alan Flanagan and Dylan Cardwell just flying over defenders to slam the ball. And it was just a complete performance almost. Like, I like your point about it being perfect, but I would push back and say that Auburn still stunk at the free throw line.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
going to keep them from having any perfect games, in my opinion, because they just can't shoot free throws, it seems. But you won the turnover battle by 10. You forced 14 turnovers, and you had 22 assists to 4 turnovers on offense, a ridiculously good margin. Something we haven't seen a lot from Auburn, to be honest. And like you said, it all started with Janai in the first half, setting the tone, dominant down low. And then the confidence just radiates through this team. And the highs and the lows go the same way for Auburn. When they're low, they seem to be really low right now. But when they're hot, man, like, they're dangerous. They're as dangerous as any team in the SEC.
Dylan, I'm curious to pick your thoughts here, and I know we brought Crews on for this exact reason, because he brings the heat when we come to talking on the hardwood. Don't get a big head, Crews. I'm just being nice. No, I'm playing.
I am a Heat fan, so it's only natural.
Oh, that you caught my little pun there. How about
Yeah,
that?
I know what you were trying. You were trying to do that. Set me up. Thank you.
I kind of was, but anyways, I'm curious to get your thoughts here, Dylan. There are obviously, like Crews just said, you got to get better at the free throw line, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination am I saying that Auburn's played a perfect game. In my mind, Auburn's never played a perfect game. I can always find things that you want to do better to be an elite team until Auburn wins a national championship. You've never played a perfect game. That's kind of how I feel. And if you win a national championship, you can play as poorly as you want. You still played a perfect game because you won the national championship. I don't care. That's kind of how that works, right? But I'm curious to see what may have surprised you. Why was it KD Johnson? But what encouraged you the most out of this group going forward? Because I was looking at the BPI, and ESPN is giving Auburn less than a 9% chance to win this game in Knoxville on Saturday, and I think that's criminally low. I don't think that Auburn should be favored, but I feel like that is just writing off a team that maybe kind of needed to get knocked around a little bit.
I think something that really helps this team, especially with tonight, is the fact that they won this game handedly without their most consistent player. Jalen Williams only put up 4 points, and you look up who picked up the slack. Dylan Cardwell put up 8 points. KD Johnson, 13 points, and would have never expected that from him. 2 shows ago, I was back on putting him back in the straitjacket, but tonight he impressed me a little bit. So
He should have impressed you a lot.
Oh yeah, but it's always it always terrifies me whenever I'm like, oh, KD Johnson's back. Well, I don't want to get too hyped up just
Let
yet.
me interject for 2 seconds. I don't think Auburn needs KD Johnson to be back. I think they need KD Johnson to be average and consistent. Carry on.
Yes, definitely. Average at best is what we want KD Johnson, and we've not been getting average. Like you said, the past 3 halves that we've seen from KD Johnson have been some of the best basketball he's played this season in general. And I don't think that's not a hot take at all, because he's been horrendous at times, and he's been reasons I've wanted to cut off the game. And looking at the box score, and Wendell Green put up 18 points, Alan Flanagan put up 22 points. And it's just still shocking to me that Jalen Williams put up only 4 points, and we won this game like we did. Jay Will shot 2 of 6 from the field. I looked at the box score after the game, and I watched the entire game. I thought he got hurt. I didn't even know he was still in the game. So I was like, oh, well, I guess we're just picking up slack from an injured player. But no, he was just quietly picking up 5 rebounds, getting 4 assists, and then got his 4 points. Sadly, tonight, Leor Berman went 0 for 2 from the 3-point line. So that kind of
I knew that was coming up. I do want to kind of build on your point, and I've got a good question for Wil, and you and I have always praised the round that Jay Will walks on, Wil. And I continue to be a Jay Will truther. You showed me the light not long ago, and I will follow you wherever you lead now. But there is an element, and we had a really good conversation with this with Jacob Hillman of Auburn Sports Network earlier in the week about this. Jay Will, every single time you talk to him or you hear him in the media, he says, my teammates keep telling me to take shots. And then he does this thing where he really doesn't get super involved on the offensive end. I know it didn't matter tonight, but you can be greedy right now. And there's nothing wrong with being greedy and saying, I want more out of this. Is there not almost a little bit of like warning signs in your head that's like, why is he not willing to do this?
Well, I can't lie. like Dylan's point about just kind of thinking maybe he got hurt, like not even really noticing that he was in the game, but it wasn't like a negative thing, that he wasn't necessarily needed. And I
No.
think Jay will be needed offensively, in particular, when you play those better teams who can just also play defense but score at a high level. But it doesn't really worry me because Jalen has kind of always been that guy, like you said, that who plays within himself, relies on his teammates, tries to get his guys better looks, because he's a cerebral player, man. I swear, if you pulled up the heat chart of all the players in the NCAA, that little like button hook right underneath the free throw line, it's all Jalen Williams. Like
It's gotta be.
he owns that area. He has to have it, And being a Heat fan, I can liken it to being like Bam Adebayo. I don't know if you watch NBA, but he has the same issue with a lot of Heat fans. Like he looks great when he's super aggressive, but there's just games where he fades out of the game offensively, and you kind of just got to take the ups with the downs with those guys. And in instances like this, you just got to look at the positives from other guys. Like we haven't even mentioned Trey Donaldson, who I think is really playing himself into more minutes. I mean, he has looked very solid, and he just commands that second unit. I mean, he could work on his defense a little bit, but even there, he's pretty good. He's physical. He's got the size to stick with the guards of the SEC, so he's not just getting outplayed over here. The most worrying thing to me, and this is very nitpicking, I mean,
no nitpick. Please nitpick.
Don't cancel me for bringing up something negative about Bruce Pearl, right? But didn't you just sit there towards the end of the game wishing and wanting to see Traore or Westry, these talented freshmen who haven't been playing hardly at all, who, yes, they really struggled, but these are the type of games where if you can get them minutes, they could have been in the game in the first half. Like Auburn was in control for the majority of this game, and I don't think they would have lost much there. And I kind of wonder about the dividends that it would pay later on in the season when the big games matter the most. To have these talented young players try to gain a little confidence against a team like Georgia, who was really struggling on the defensive end, and Auburn was getting open looks everywhere, like every single player. So, I mean, they wouldn't have even had to do too much to have a good game, in my opinion. They could have just spotted up in the corner and had some easy shots and maybe see a three go in, which I don't know if that's happened for Chance Westry this year. So that's one thing that I would nitpick. But, overall, best game of SEC play for the season, in my opinion, for the Tigers. Season high in points, 94, unless I'm mistaken. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
And they won the field goal percentage, rebounds, steals, blocks, dominated across the board, other than, like you said, Georgia shot the three ball really well, but they had to throw them up towards the end of the game. And so
Georgia shot 41% from three.
Yeah. And Auburn had a shot worse, but it was still a good game for them. And
Auburn
so
shot 36%. You got to be thrilled with that with this group.
Exactly. You can't really be in a better spot going in to play what is ranked the number 2 team, Tennessee, even though they took the loss this weekend.
I couldn't agree with you more, actually, Crews. And I think it's interesting. I know Dylan's ready to jump in on this because you said the buzzword. You said the Johan Traore word. You saw him really have his coming out party against USC. Dylan, I'm going to let you expand on this. I think Westry, you're shutting it down for the year personally. And I think he knows that and he's accepted that role. He's coming back to Auburn next year from all accounts. I think that he knows that you just got to accept the fact that your season got thrown behind and pushed back because of an injury that you just couldn't control. And that happens. I think that BP has a lot of faith in him. But the Traore conversation is an interesting one. And Dylan, I'm going to let you talk about what you think his value could have been or could be going forward here for a second. We're operating under the assumption he's healthy, right? We've got no reason. We've had no reason to believe otherwise. So Dylan, I'm curious. I'm going to let you build off of Crews because I know we actually had a good conversation with Jacob Hillman about this on Tuesday. What in the world is going on with keeping Johan Traore out of games?
It's like Carmen Sandiego. It's like, where in the world is Johan Traore? he was averaging 11.2 minutes, and he finally got, like we always say, his come out party against the real USC in South Carolina. And 8 points for him is huge. I mean, it's not anything that's going to light up the box score, but this is a kid you've been waiting to see this from all season, and he finally looked confident. He was he was shooting the ball. He was seeing it go through the hoop, and he was playing the best basketball he's played all season. And we were all really excited to see how this would pan out over these next few games. And we haven't seen him since. And 11.2 minutes is kind of shocking that he went from 11.2 to 0. And yeah, he's averaging 2.8 points a game. But I mean, whenever he got hot against South Carolina. And
we're big vibes guys here. So if you see the ball go through the hoop, the vibes get better.
And you
look they do. Like
well, you looked on the schedule, and I mean, the Bama game is gonna be very prevalent on the show as it gets closer and closer. It's just like a nightmare at this point, because at some point you got to go to Coleman. At some point, Bama's got to come to Neville, and you're looking at that one player on Bama's roster, and you're like, who's going to be able to guard him? We talk about Janai's not a perimeter guy, so you're going to put him on the perimeter and then hopefully get Dylan Cardwell starting minutes at the 5, because you can't trust Dylan Cardwell with starting minutes right now. No. And Jay Will could possibly maybe slow him down, but I think with Johan's size, build, frame, all of his potential, I think he gives you your best opportunity to even hold him down to maybe 20 points on us at this point, because Brandon Miller is just that good.
No, 100%. And that's a nice little segue piece here. We've talked a little bit about how important this game is on Saturday, Crews, coming up. And I don't want to put the Georgia game too far in the rear view, but I think we've soundly covered those bases. And I want to get your outlook going down the stretch. You're through the halfway threshold in the SEC season. Folks have mentally checked out. I was actually planning on going on a rant before this game happened, and I'm glad this game went the way it did, because I was really going to rip Auburn fans apart for the piss poor display of actual like fans in the stands tonight. Yeah. That's an embarrassment and disservice to what Bruce Pearl's done at Auburn. That's a side note for you. But as you look down the schedule, Auburn's 17-5 overall. They're second place in the SEC. They're a 2-loss team in the SEC. 2 losses. Should that have probably just been 1 loss? Yeah, probably. We're not going to go there. But quietly, Auburn is second in the SEC with the opportunity to pretty much control their own destiny. I know it's not an easy road. I get it. I understand. It requires beating Alabama twice, and I know that's probably just not going to happen. But if you look at what's coming up, Auburn's got 3 games that's going to determine the rest of the year, and they are in order. You've got Tennessee on the road, A&M on the road, and Alabama at Neville Arena in the next 2 weeks. In the next 10 days, you're going to play those 3 games. Crews, what's the best case scenario out of those 3 in terms of maybe winning the SEC out the window? But in terms of going down the stretch, what's your best case scenario?
I mean, just in those 3 games, I think you have to take 2-1 as the best case scenario. You hope that they can bounce back and get a win over a Texas A&M team who shouldn't have manhandled them like they did in Neville Arena just about a week ago. And then, Tennessee and Bama, 2 of the best teams in the country. And a common theme with those teams are really good athletic guards. And that's something Auburn's just going to struggle with, in my opinion. Like Dylan was trying to come up with some matrix to guard Brandon Miller. There's just not a good answer right now on this Auburn team, and so you got to pick up the ones. Like, you can't drop any more silly games like the one to Texas A&M at home
or Georgia,
or Georgia, and that started tonight, right? I mean, it's like we're saying, you can't really position yourself to feel any better going into this kind of tough run. So yeah, I think you don't have to throw the SEC regular season title out of the equation, but it's like an Einstein level math equation to figure out how Auburn wins that. So I think you got to kind of bring it
right now
down.
It's pretty black and white.
I mean, yeah, but once you look into the games,
right,
it becomes much more nuanced to see Auburn put together the kind of consistency that we have yet to see for more than a handful of games all season. And so really you just got to hope guys like Katie Johnson and Alan Flanagan continue to grow and be consistent. And, Cardwell had a great game tonight. Donaldson, everybody was clicking tonight. I won't go as far to say as like Auburn figured something out, because I think Georgia really were kind of just off their game, especially defensively, even though they're not great there. And Auburn just had too much size. We were killing them on the rebounds. Like, it's easy to win games that way. When you win in those statistical categories. But, shout out to my stepdad who said at the end of the game, he was like, he was pretty much saying he hadn't seen Bruce Pearl be this calm in such a long time. Like, Bruce couldn't find anything to yell about on the court, which is very hard to do for him. So that alone is pretty exciting. Like, the coach seems satisfied with the performance because he's a tough man to please and he holds his players to high standards. And the Auburn fan base is going to hold Auburn to high standards the rest of the season. So they really need to get through this 3-game stretch 2-1. And then I think it'll be a positive outlook and keep rolling to the regular season ends.
All right, quick question before we can transition over to still hoops. Couple guys I know that you're pumped about. You got to be. But question for you, Crews. Does Auburn have the pieces it needs to get things going in the big dance?
You want the short answer or the long answer?
Surprise me.
Well, wait. I hadn't had time to prepare a long metaphor, so it's gonna be the short answer.
Whatever fits on a graphic.
This time, yeah. Right. I'm gonna say no, just because I feel like they're gonna run into similar things like they did last year against an experienced team with long, athletic guards, and they're just not gonna be able to shoot the ball well enough to stay in games. If they don't turn the ball over like they did tonight, then they can. But we've seen them plenty of times get rather erratic on the offensive end. So I'm going to say no in terms of, like, I don't know what you mean by get it together, like win it or get past the second round.
Make a deep run.
But there's always some magic on the plains, baby. Like, nobody expected the Final Four team to do what it did. So if you're a believer in Bruce Pearl and you're a believer in what he's building at Auburn, and there is talent on this team, you can't give up hope until, the final buzzer hits in whatever round they go out in March Madness.
I respect it. I just thought I'd put you on the spot. I give you too many predictable questions, and I left this one off the rundown on purpose.
Yeah, I wasn't ready for that one, but I liked it.
I know you did. I'm gonna throw the metaphorical.
You're good at this.
I'm gonna throw the metaphorical lob over to Dylan, not the Cardwell variety, our variety of Dylan's, which is Larck.
A lot shorter and not able to dunk. Yes,
correct. I've seen you try. No, I'm kidding. And let him talk a little bit, Crews, about, you mentioned what Bruce Pearl's building. Good night. He's not done building it yet.
And if you were also looking at some of his former building blocks, Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith are going to the Rising Stars Challenge. So huge shout out to those two and their continued success in the NBA. But we look towards the future of Auburn. Auburn picked up one commit today, expecting a couple more as it gets closer down to, well, I guess class 2024 is further down the road. But picked up 5-star point guard Tahad Pettiford. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I guessed that. He committed to the Tigers today. 5-star on the composite, 5'11", 160 pounds, but 5'11", and this dude can dunk the ball like nobody's business. Like, dude, I'm 5'10", and I can barely touch that.
The rim.
I'm gonna be generous here, and I'm not gonna call out Dylan and tell him he's not 5'10" on the podcast, but the kid's got a great game. And in a world where we've talked about, and Crews, you talked about it a minute ago, really building this guard-based program, and this guard-centric program that Bruce Pearl has done. I mean, you look through the past 5 years alone. You've got the Jared Harpers of the world, the Bryce Browns, the Sharif Coopers. This list goes on and on and on. The Wendell Greens. This guy adds even another X factor level, and I think that if Chance Westry can get his stuff together, I mean, this could be a scary backcourt next year. And I'm really still very high on Chance. I'm not ready to count him out. I don't want us to judge his freshman year, which is going to wind up being his redshirt freshman year, as what he can be at Auburn. That's not what I want us to go with. This is a guy that it's going to be huge in terms of, I mean, this might wind up being Bruce Pearl's best recruiting class like ever. Like 24 really might be the strongest recruiting class in the history of Auburn basketball, especially if we landed another commitment of another guard, Dylan.
gonna have to struggle with this name too. LeBaron Philon.
Phylon, I believe.
Phylon. Yeah, so this guy's a combo guard, this guy's a point guard. Combo guard's next. Point guard, who is a 4-star #1 player in the state of Alabama from Mobile, Alabama. He is 6'4" at guard.
Tall guards.
Something Auburn's been struggling with as of late in all these games that we've lost is the fact that the other team, except for Memphis, has had a tall guard that, Wendell Green, Zepp, KD, none of those guys can, I don't want to say it because they're short, but can't reach.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Because Eric Stevenson shouldn't have been lighting it up like he was, because, no one could get in his face. And that's why you couldn't really stop him, because no one's tall enough to get him at the guard position. And I think you bring in a Phylon, and, dude, something is really scary about Auburn having a tall guard.
Yeah, it's a terrifying concept. And another, like you were about to mention, a 5-star combo guard, Dylan Harper. He's down to his final five. And he's been crystal ball to Duke, but his top 5 are Auburn, Duke, Rutgers, Kansas, and Indiana. He's out in New Jersey. 6'4", 180, #4 national, #1 combo guard. Let me tell you a couple things about this kid. One, there's nothing wrong. There's literally no flaws I can find in his game, no matter how much I watch his film, and I've tried. 2, if Auburn loses another recruit to Rutgers can officially kick rocks.
Dude, they're the birthplace, though. You can't hate the birthplace.
The birthplace of college football, not college basketball.
Fair point.
What even is a Rutger?
Yeah, what even is a Rutger? Someone explain to me, what's a Rutger?
The top five is very interesting because he has some blue bloods on here. Then he has Duke, Rutgers, Kansas, and Indiana on this list. So
yeah,
but another guard who's 6'4", and what is a combo guard? What is a combo guard?
A guard that can do it all.
So he's a point forward, basically.
Correct. Yeah, more of a shooter, but yeah.
Because these are all these positions in these sports that
combo guard's not a real thing. It's just kind of more of a hybrid 1-2 that can also play 3 if you need him to, just depending on his size. If he puts on adds a couple inches, like that could happen, which is not entirely impossible for a kid who's 18 years old. Yeah, that's an exciting moment for men's hoops in terms of kind of moving forward. And we're going to flip to football briefly. Crews, we're not going to bore you too much with football. We just got a handful of things. We really wanted to make this an Auburn basketball show, and we're in the most impactful time of the season right now, so had to. I just want to give a quick shout out to Kharyssa Richardson from the women's basketball team, awarded freshman SEC freshman of the week. 15 points, 17 rebounds. Women's hoops, that's like the equivalent. I always try to put this like on the men's hoop scale. That's like the equivalent of dropping 25 and 23. That's dumb. That's just stupid. And the future is bright. Auburn women's basketball on a 3-game win streak. We'll preview that game on the Sunday show, so you'll get to listen to that in the morning, watch the game in the afternoon. Super fun. That we love when we have the opportunity to do that kind of stuff, like you did on never mind, not this week. You didn't get to do that at all this week.
I will kind of live pitch. Do you want to do like a little short Tennessee preview to come out tomorrow? Just got a 10-minute video.
Oh yeah, we can for sure.
All right,
you're welcome. You're welcome for me donating more of my time to you. Anyways, and I did want to highlight on Friday there's a team in Auburn who's competing for a national championship on a yearly basis now. Auburn Gymnastics, and that's not an exaggeration. Crews, have you made it out to a gym meet yet?
Yeah, I was there last weekend, and it was impressive because Suni Lee was off her game, if you can ever really say that, which means she wasn't perfect. But it didn't even matter. Yeah, don't come at me for that. But she wasn't like she wasn't even the best performer, the best gymnast of the night. Cassie Stevens was awesome,
Stevens moment.
Like Sophia Garotha really had a good night. I mean, like this team is loaded outside of Suni. We know that, and the Iron Bowl rivalry runs deeper than football, so I'm sure Auburn fans are really, really looking forward to this weekend.
That quote graph is really funny when it just says Suni Lee was off her game. Wil Crews on Suni Lee's.
Please don't. Please don't. Please don't.
The Opelika Observer inbox is flooded tomorrow saying fire this guy.
Yeah.
No, incredible atmosphere. Also, Crews, since you've been in person, now you've seen Darion Goborn walking out into God Save the Queen. is the hardest thing I've ever seen.
I mean, come on. Like, it is the best spectacle in sports right now. And in her floor routine is just like the cherry on top of everything at the end of the night. So she's awesome. Yeah.
You're so right. And the amount of just moxie she carries onto the floor, she's just like, I'm better than you, and I know it. And I love it. And so definitely something that everyone should check out. Friday Night Heights. The entire SEC is loaded this year. I bought my SEC championship tickets, got 8 tickets to the SEC championship in my hometown for gymnastics this year. So that's kind of fun. All you Birmingham people get all the other fun stuff. So it's about time we got something. Anyways, we're going to move over to football here briefly.
And going into the day, I mean, it was already a great day, or a great night, just saying, because Auburn basketball won. But the morning started off pitch perfect because Auburn,
a little chilly.
Yeah, a little chilly on the plains. I know we talked about how we picked up Tahad Pettiford earlier, but Auburn added 2 more commits to their class of 24 and class of 25. Class 24 adds another cornerback, and it's cornerback if you can't understand my drawl. Jaden Lewis from, I believe it's from Anniston.
Anniston, Alabama, baby. Alabama.
6 foot tall, 175 pounds, and you sit there and look at the secondary for the future. And right now it's DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett. You have Austin Osbury and JD Rhyme up next. Then you have Kyan Lee, and then you start next season off. You got Jaden Lewis right then and there. And I also added Amon Lane to this class.
Dude,
DBU?
Yeah, you're not kidding. We talked about this on Tuesday with Jacob Hillman. And side note, for those of you who are watching the live show and now realizing that Wil Crews is not hanging out with us, Will did have to go tend to his cat. He's definitely our hoops guy anyways, so not a problem. And make sure you follow him at Sports Cruise on Twitter. Check out his work at the Opelika Observer. 10 out of 10. If you need long metaphors, he's your guy. He's the creator of the Street Sweeper. Excuse me. Still, that's a little bit of a tongue twister. Anyways, we talked about this with Jacob Hillman on Tuesday. Look at where the concentration has been for Freeze and company. Go get your DBs and go work on the trenches. And I know that eventually you're waiting on a couple guys, maybe from Thompson, maybe from Central Phoenix City, some receivers, to say that they're jumping in on this class. And I fully expect for us to have a full class at Auburn of skill positions. But you're getting the job done in positions that you need to win those battles in order. Defense wins championships and winning in the trenches. This is another one of those additions that you're like, oh my gosh, Auburn got better today. And not just because they added a warm body, they added a skilled body.
Yeah, and I mean the secondary, good Lord, the work that's been put in. I mean, all through every coaching staff really, just putting together just a star-studded Auburn secondary. And I mean, it's set up for generations now. We got 3 years of DJ. Well, we got 2 more. Well, we got probably 1 more year DJ James and last
probably
year
1 more.
Pritchett.
Yeah,
and then going to next season, your 2 starting guys are going to be Austin Osbury and JD Rhyme and Kyan Lee, and then in comes Jaden Lewis and Amon Lane and whoever else. Job's not finished.
Right.
There's going to be more in this class, and looking forward to the class 25, just to get him out of the way. 4-star defensive lineman in the class 25. He's a 4-star in the class of 25. Malik Autry from Opelika High School. He committed to the Tigers today. He is 6'6", 280, and that's a sophomore in high school. That is 6'6", 280 pounds.
Let's talk about Malik Autry real quick. Let's talk about the implications between him and Jaden Lewis. And I know I'm going to keep hounding it, and we're going to talk about this all through the 24s, Dylan, through the entire 24 class. You went and got a guy from Anniston, Alabama. You went and got a guy from right around the corner in Opelika. You're winning the Southeast Alabama right now. I've got to do my research on where UAT and Bama is doing in terms of their recruitment in the Southeast Alabama. But Auburn's going after these guys that they know they need to keep at home, and they're getting them early. I cannot begin to express, and I think that you're with me when I say I expect a handful of recruitments probably by the end of spring ball from 24s, if not Big Cat Weekend in the summer in July, that are staying home, that are seeing the vision that Hugh Freeze and this tremendous staff. I mean, I can't echo what you say enough, Dylan. I mean, Hugh Freeze has already proved himself as a great recruiter. Zach Etheridge, we know what he can do. We know what Trevon Reed can do. We know what the Prince who is promised, Cadillac Williams, what he can do. This group, right there on your background. Great accent piece. Hate you can't see it on the Auburn Daily Show, but this is what you need to start. This is a good cornerstone. And I don't know, did you get to see if not, I'm not putting you on the spot here, but did you get to see the interview with Hugh Freeze at Senior Bowl earlier today?
I remember he said something along the lines about Derek Hall and Eki Leota.
Well, he mentioned that, and then he went on to talk about his satisfaction with the class of 23.
I did not hear about that.
So I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't want to try to take a stab at something I don't have directly in front of me. But what he said was he was pleased with what they did in a short period of time with the 23s, and I think he shortchanged himself a little bit. He said, "I think we did we did a solid job. I think he did a great job, all things considered." He said it himself. The class of 2024 and the class of 2025 are going to be the two most impactful classes in the Freeze tenure to determine, and he said this pretty much verbatim, how they're going to stack up with the big dogs in the SEC. He didn't name drop anybody, which that's smart on his part, but the insinuation there is the Alabamas, the Georgias. You throw LSU in there with Brian Kelly. You throw in what Josh Heupel's doing and at Tennessee. What Shane Beamer's doing in South Carolina. And what we think that Billy Napier could do at Florida. And he's talking about these next two classes. He's not talking about what you're doing right now. He's talking about what they've done in the past. He's talking about how you build in the future. This is stuff you didn't hear out of the tenure in front of you. It's stuff you didn't hear at the end of the Malzahn era. I know it's all talk right now, but so far Hugh Freeze has walked the walk. And there's your quote. I know that. But sorry, I got a little fired up there because I'm just overwhelmed at the fact that, or I guess mind boggled at the fact that previous administrations, namely Potato Man, didn't understand the fact that there's a Dylan, you're not a stranger. There's a boatload of high school football talent in Alabama. There's a ton.
Yeah, and you talk about just the boatload of talent. There's two juggernauts of Alabama high school football 10, 15 minutes away from Auburn's campus. And there's another one 45 minutes away from Auburn's campus. And it's all around that area. And you just have to wonder, like, why weren't the last two utilizing that?
And we're going to keep talking about Trent Seaborn as long as this podcast may live. I feel very confident about that, regardless about his decision about where he goes. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be that dude. That's one of those moments. The fact that you go get a 27 and you say, hey, check out this place. Check out what we're doing. See our vision. See our group. And I know you're getting ready to talk about a guy that signed here at Auburn today that you've been waiting forever. But I wanted to talk about this importance. And you get a guy like Darren Reed. And you talk about, wow, now we're gaining traction. We're gaining some popularity. We're trending upward in some powerhouse organizations within the state that have the best talent, some of the best talent in the Southeast, some of the best talent in the country, Dylan. That's only good things.
We cannot speak enough about the job that Hugh Freeze has done in his short time here at Auburn. It's nothing short of amazing. And I posed a question. I got a lot of good answers from people asking, what letter grade would you give the Hugh Freeze administration so far? And there were a lot of A's. And I think that's the best grade you can give for him. I mean, a lot of people were looking past the so far thing and like, well, you can't really grade them before the season starts. I'm like, well, the season starts as soon as the previous season ends.
And you're absolutely right. Carry on. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at junior day, there were a couple of guys, I can't remember their name. There's a couple of high level defensive players who, again, if you didn't know, junior day was last Saturday. It was the same day as Alabama's. There was 2 4- or 5-star defensive players who were from the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa area that were on the plains
that chose to be at Auburn. And that just speaks to it, Dylan. I would probably give what Freeze has done so far, and I'm critical. I am. I'd give him an A. You look at what he's doing right now. Now, the ultimate test, and I think you'll agree with me, I'm going to be watching quite closely with these 23s. And that's beyond the fact that I'm addicted to recruiting. It's the fact that, and by the way, you're welcome for me giving you that bug. But
thanks.
Yeah, it's something else to be absorbed in. But The class of 2023, I'll go ahead and say this right now, is going to determine what you should expect out of Hugh Freeze going forward. And it may not be his best class ever in terms of while he's at Auburn. It may not be his best class during his tenure at Auburn. But if it trends in the right direction, if it shows a ton of promise, first off, I think that this class could be a top 10 class, Dylan. I really do. I think the 23s could wind up being a top 10 class. That's going to show you if Hugh Freeze is capable of recruiting against the big dogs. Right now, I have a hard time arguing against it.
Yeah, and the 23 class is just the talent that we see in this class. You'd assume that, oh yeah, Keldrick Falk definitely had to be an Auburn commit before he signed with Auburn. Yeah, right. Kyan Lee definitely that had to be an Auburn guy all the way, just because this level of talent that you expect from schools like that. And you look back and you're like, well, Hugh Freeze in a month, actually, I think less than a month, was able to flip Keldrick Falk and Kyan Lee from Florida State and Ohio State. And you look at Darren Reed, flipped him from LSU. And those are all local boys. I mean, Alabama.
Imagine what he can do with more time.
Yeah. You give him a year, and I'm going to echo what you said one time. Class 24 could be a top 10 class.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Except when I said 23s a minute ago, I meant 24s. And my apologies, because we're in 23 and it's a whole number. But I mean, 24 and 25 are going to be these two big years. 24s, that's what I meant to say. I think these 24s could be a top 10 class. And there's a lot of guys that have not been evaluated for their senior years yet that I think are going to go on to being 5 stars. And I would not be surprised if Auburn not only landed 1 5-star, I wouldn't be surprised if they landed more than 1 5-star this year.
And you can't just going back on a guy we talked about last episode. We talked, says quote, Antoine Hill, class 25, 4-star quarterback, wants to come here to develop like Malik Willis under Hugh Freeze. And that speaks volumes of everything. I think that pretty much sums up the kind of job that Hugh Freeze has done in his short time here.
Let me answer your quote or rebut your quote, not refute it, but answer your quote with another quote here. And this one's coming from Hugh Freeze. And I know we do a lot of talking about, the Harsin era versus the Freeze era, a night and day difference. Yes, the bar's on the floor. We get this. Even at the end of the Malzahn era, if you look at Gus Malzahn's mentality when it came to recruiting and when it came to why he wanted to be in Auburn, I have no doubt in my mind that Gus Malzahn wanted what was best for Auburn. No part of me doesn't believe that. No part of me believes that. I have plenty of rebuttals about Harsin in that regard. But when Brian Harsin took the Auburn job, his logic was, well, Auburn's one of those jobs you have to take, which, sure, that's a fine answer. Great answer. Okay, understand. You leave your alma mater to go take a job where you think you have a shot to go win a national championship because it has the resources, which I think you agree Auburn has the resources. Today at the Senior Bowl, this morning, this comes out a day later. So yesterday morning at the Senior Bowl, Hugh Freeze mentioned that, yes, he could have stayed at Liberty and won 8, 9, 10, 11 games a year and been just fine. Upset some Power 5 teams in the process, won bowl games, and would have had a lifetime contract. He pretty much said that. His reasoning for taking the Auburn job is not just, I need to go out and redeem myself and win a national championship. Not, I want to go, coach at this prestigious university and read between the lines. I need to go get my bag. No, his reasoning, and this is, take this at face value, if you will. What he said was, as coaches, there's always something in us, or at least in me, that wants that opportunity to go do something special. I think that that's got to be the message that he's selling to these recruits, because I think these guys recognize that at a place like Auburn, and I'm not throwing them Auburn on the Alabama, the Georgia, the LSU level yet, in terms of history of winning championships. But I think they realize that at a place like Auburn, where you have the resources, there is the backing, there is the support, you have the opportunity to do something very special. And it's not been that long ago since Auburn did something very special. So I kind of wanted to throw it out there, Dylan, because I think it all circles together quite nicely. And now, granted, we're going to find out a lot about Hugh Freeze's on-field coaching mentality here in a couple months. And we'll definitely learn and come the 2023 season, and there will be eyes and there will be expectations. But on the recruiting trail, Hugh Freeze is a freaking winner.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you can fully expect that the first 8A game, you better get there early. You better get there early because you are not going to be able to. Yeah, you could, there. I think it's just free, like $5 admission, and you just got to pick your seat. And if you don't want nosebleeds, you better get there an hour early because you're about to see one dog who's finally on roster, finally signed to the Auburn Tigers. One Mr. 4-star running back from Montgomery, Alabama, out of Montgomery Catholic, the number one running back in the state of Alabama at 5'11", 185 pounds. Jeremiah Cobb has finally signed with the Tigers. And yeah, we weren't supposed to stress about it, but the George Pickens of the world and the Reuben Fosters of the world kind of have haunted me for years and a decade. It's a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Dylan, can I say I told you so now? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, well, I told you so. Jeremiah Cobb's going to be a big piece to this running back room. I mean, you have it listed right here on our rundown. I'm just going to read it out as is. Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston. I'm not reading off the rundown anymore. I'm just looking at you. Jarquez Hunter, Damari Alston, Brian Battie, Sean Jackson. I mean, this room, man, is crazy. I think he fits in the rotation early. I think he gets reps, and you may see him take a redshirt freshman year. I don't think that's the worst thing. But this is one of those guys that wanted to wait to sign with his teammates on National Signing Day, and I want to put this out there for those of you who were stressing it. Fine, I understand. Don't tweet at recruits when that was their decision making. Please don't. Just knock it off. It's not funny. It's not cool. I don't care what kind of Twitter clout you get. The kid wanted to sign with his teammates, his brothers that he's put in work with for probably 8-9 years, realistically. And he wanted that opportunity to share that moment with them in a special moment in his life. And a special opportunity for him and a Hugh Freeze offense. A Philip Montgomery offense that I think that we're really excited about.
And if you look at Jeremiah Cobb's strengths, dude is fast as I'll get out. This dude is a speed back, and he's joining the likes of Jarquez Hunter, who is a big-bodied speed back, Damari Alston, who's a little bit smaller, but he's still a speed back. This running back room is going to be quick, and I think that you could probably see Jeremiah Cobb put on a little bit of weight, hit that 200 marker.
Yeah, you would think so for sure. Get him in the weight room, especially since, Jeremiah Cobb will join the team this summer. Obviously, he's not an early enrollee, but he will. They'll get him in the weight room quite quickly. Great example is I keep pointing back, but if you ever look at freshman Owen Papo to senior Owen Papo, holy crap! You want to talk about a weightlifting routine?
And if you I'm reading his right off of his recruiting profile on 24/7, so you can find it. He played in a shotgun spread offense, which sounds a little like a Hugh Freeze offense. Majority of his explosive runs came from outside the tackles. Decisive one-cut runner that displays natural patience and vision behind the line of scrimmage. Appears to have adequate short area burst and explosiveness. And under a Hugh Freeze-led offense, I'm assuming I'm not going to say assuming. You know that adequate short area burst is going to turn to great short area burst.
Agreed.
I think he's going to end up being one of your pointing at the viewers, one of your favorite recruits from this class. I think he is going to be a great running back. And I mean, it's kind of just like a pattern with Auburn. I mean, we've had great running backs year in and year out, except for a couple of years.
And if he's familiar with running out of the shotgun, that means he's familiar with pass blocking, folks.
And I mean, he's got some great running backs to learn behind, and I don't think he could ask for a better running back coach.
I could not echo that sentiment more, Dylan. Jeremiah Cobb's a special guy, and he's going to be a special player at Auburn. And if he's not, come back and clip this. But I feel pretty confident in saying that. And I've got a lot of high ceilings for a lot of guys on this in this recruiting class. Jeremiah Cobb has kind of flown under our radar. We've mentioned him about how we're holding out. No, we need to worry. This is his moment. So really, and remember, Jeremiah Cobb's been committed for a while. This is his moment to really enjoy the fact that he's going to be part of the picture going forward. And I think that Auburn fans have a lot to be excited about. So much more football coming in the coming weeks and coming months, Dylan. And that's going to start this Saturday Saturday night, rather, we're going to record for the Sunday show as we always do. We'll have men's basketball, we'll have women's basketball, we'll recap some gymnastics. Maybe we'll talk about our favorite barbecue joints in Auburn. We still need to do that. So we got a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and we've got ESPN 106.7 host of On the Line, Jacob Goins. He'll be here on the Sunday episode. Really excited to talk some ball with Mr. Goins. My favorite memory of him was watching the NFL draft. He's a Packers fan, and watching them just not take a wide receiver in the first round or the second round, and watching him bang his head into a wall. So that was a lot of fun. Dylan, I'm really excited about it. I'm Harrison Tarr, at by Harrison Tarr on Twitter. You can find all my written work at the Auburn Daily. You can also watch me on TikToks at the Making Bacon if that's something you're interested in. And you can check out all of my graphics that I make that are just like 1/10 of the time on the College Loop. So Dylan, I'll let you get us out of here. Great episode. Shout out to Wil Crews for coming on. Definitely probably going to have him on again sometime next week. And we're looking to bring on rivals Caleb Jones. So we could talk some Cruton everywhere, Dylan. And yeah, that's all I got. So that's all yours, Dylan.
Yeah, huge shout out again to Wil Crews. He's at sports_Crews. Crews spelled Crews, not like the song Cruise. Yeah, and you also catch all of his work on the Opelika Observer. But yeah, I am Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. That is YABOI the Tank. Also, catch the College Loop on all social media platforms except for MySpace. That is TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that jazz. And you can also catch me on the Auburn Daily every Monday and Wednesday, talking everything Auburn sports 24/7, just about. But
that's right.
That being said, this has been the College Loop Podcast.